Did you know that over 74% of professionals regret not pursuing their dreams? And of those, 92% end up falling short of their goals? Why is it so tough to reach for the stars? Well, I've got some insights from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, and I'm going to share them with you now. We all have those things we dream of, but they seem out of reach. Maybe it's having the perfect job, being in shape, or finding the perfect relationship. James Clear says there are 3 layers to changing our behavior. The first layer is the results, the second layer is the process, and the third layer is our identity. Many of us, including me, try to change our behavior by starting with the outside layer. This means we focus on what we want to achieve first. For me, I want to be a writer and a YouTuber. So to be those things, I gotta have a clear goal in mind. My 2024 goal was to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. When we set out to do something, the expectation is that progress will go in a linear fashion. If we plotted this on a graph, it would look like this. We would have time on the x-axis and results on the y-axis. In theory, the more time we put into something, the better results we will achieve. It all seemed very intuitive. Like every good goal, the best way to achieve it is through the grind. Just grind away for countless hours and you'll start to see the results. So, how do I work out my schedule? I should maximize the hours worked in a day, working from morning till sunset. I worked into the evening and it was super draining, but I was so proud of myself that I kept going. The strenuous work had paid off and it resulted in my first YouTube video. But here's the thing, I started to feel like I was getting worse over time. I'd spent hours watching YouTube to study, but it was starting to mess up my work schedule. I started working in the afternoon instead of the morning. I started to feel self-conscious about my YouTube stats, and I got discouraged. But I didn't give up. I made a second video, but this one took a month. Even though I had made 2 videos, I had felt more discouraged. I gained only 2 subscribers, and my views were barely over 200 for each video. I was doing something wrong. I started researching on YouTube more to figure out what I needed to do to get my videos to be more popular. But the more I researched, the more confused I got. I started feeling more depressed and self-conscious about how poorly I was doing. This made it harder for me to work each day. My routine was completely thrown off and I was easily distracted. If I charted my consistency, it would look something like this. Pretty disappointing. Whatever I was doing, it was making me feel more disillusioned. I needed to become more effective. So, how did I do that? I read Atomic Habits and found out that my progress should look something like this. The book also mentioned the 2-minute rule. This rule says that it's better to show up every day to do something than to do something at an inconsistent rate. For example, when you start, you have to do the easiest version of a task. This means the version of the task that takes literally 2 minutes. The bad days of work are just as important as the good ones. The only thing that matters is showing up. I had the realization that I had let some not so great habits pile up. Instead of focusing on showing up, I got caught fixating on the end result. This was leading me to make a bunch of bad decisions in a row. Check out this chart from Atomic Habits. Every day we're faced with a bunch of choices. Depending on what we decide, we're basically voting for whether we're going to have a good day or a bad day. So if I wanted to be productive, I needed to focus on 2 things. 1, make sure I get to the good habits as soon as possible, and 2, to make the bad habits as difficult as possible. It was tough to get back on track at first. I had fallen into bad habits and needed drastic changes to break free. I downloaded the Habits cheat sheet and started cutting out the bad stuff. Here are some of the things I'm doing. I put away the TV remote and turn off the internet router. I remove all social media from my phone until work is done. I've bought icebreakers, sours, and chewing gum to munch on while I work. Lastly, once I'm done with work, I have to have a break. No working after a certain time so I can recover. This had helped my productivity game, but I knew I needed to have something more. That something more was a mindset shift. Remember the chart showing results over time? Well, here's the thing, results aren't always linear. Think of it like melting ice. You can do a lot of the work, but until the temperature gets above freezing, nothing happens. Just like an ice cube, the results you get from the time you put in are slow but exponential. The gap between what we think should happen and what actually happens is what James Clear calls the valley of disappointment. Until we reach some critical threshold, the work we put in might not seem like it's paying off. Remember when I said most people start with their results and then work their way to their identity? That's not the best approach. We should start with our identity, change our processes to fit that identity, and then the results will naturally follow. It might seem unintuitive, but I found it quite profound. Instead of aiming for a vague goal to achieve a desired identity, you achieve the identity by consistently showing up and doing the work. I have no control over views or subscribers. What I do have control over is the work that I'm going to put in. Just sitting down for a few minutes and writing makes you a writer much more than having a long, intense session every now and then. So I'm going to focus on being a YouTuber and a writer first, stick to the process, and trust that the results will come along eventually. I couldn't go over the whole book, so if you liked the information here, check out Atomic Habits. You can support the channel by clicking the affiliate link. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.